Marcus stood outside the pawn shop, his hands trembling as he clutched the old revolver wrapped in a faded cloth. The winter wind cut through his thin jacket, but it was hunger that made him shake the most. 3 days without a proper meal had brought him here, to this moment of desperation he never imagined he'd face. The gun was the last thing his grandfather had left him, but his daughter needed medicine, and the pharmacy wouldn't accept memories as payment. The shop owner, a heavy-set man named Earl, barely glanced up when Marcus entered. He'd seen 1,000 desperate faces walk through that door, each carrying pieces of their lives they hoped were worth more than they feared. Marcus unwrapped the revolver with careful hands, placing it on the counter like he was laying down a part of his soul. But what happened next would change everything. If you're watching this, stay until the end because the truth about this gun will absolutely shock you. And if this story touches your heart, please hit that like button. It helps us share more stories that matter. I need $10, Marcus said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Please, it's all I'm asking. Earl picked up the gun with the casual indifference of someone who'd handled countless firearms. But then something changed. His eyes narrowed and he turned the weapon over slowly, examining the worn grip and the serial number etched into the steel. His breath caught. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his tone sharp with sudden intensity. Marcus explained that it had belonged to his grandfather, a man he'd barely known, who'd passed away when Marcus was just a boy. Earl disappeared into the back room without a word, leaving Marcus standing there, confused and frightened that somehow he'd done something wrong. Minutes felt like hours. When Earl returned, he wasn't alone. An elderly man with silver hair and wearing an expensive suit followed him, moving with the careful steps of someone who'd lived through more history than most people could imagine. The old man's eyes locked onto the revolver, and tears began streaming down his weathered face. "That's Robert's gun," he whispered, reaching out but not quite touching it. "That's my brother's gun." He looked at Marcus with an expression of desperate hope mixed with decades of grief. "Your grandfather, what was his name?" Marcus told him. Robert Chen, a name he'd only heard in fragments of stories his mother used to tell. The old man, who introduced himself as James Chen, collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed by emotions he'd buried for 50 years. James explained that Robert had saved his life in combat. Taking a bullet meant for him. They'd been separated after the war, and despite years of searching, James had never found his brother again. He'd built a fortune in technology, but all his money couldn't buy back the family he'd lost. The gun wasn't just a weapon. It was proof that his brother had lived, had survived long enough to have a family, to pass something down through generations. James looked at Marcus with understanding in his eyes. He saw the worn shoes, the hollow cheeks, the desperate situation written in every line of the young man's face. "I'll give you $50,000 for this gun," James said. "But more than that, I'll give you what my brother would have wanted. A chance. A future." Marcus felt his knees weaken, tears blurring his vision. Sometimes the things we're most desperate to let go of are exactly what connect us to miracles we never saw coming. This story reminds us that we're all connected in ways we can't see, and that our ancestors' sacrifices echo through generations in the most unexpected ways. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs hope today. And remember to subscribe, because every week we bring you stories that prove miracles still happen when we least expect them. Your support means everything.